All right, everyone, here we go. I'm going to go over the 5 questions that I assigned yesterday. These are strictly just looking for dimensions. So we're not finding the volume of a cylinder. You're either going to find the height or the radius. I know they put that in bold. The only thing that it's missing are obviously pictures of each cylinder. Technically, you don't need them. If you like drawing them to help you visualize what you're missing, you can do that. But as long as you have the formula and you know what they're giving you, you can use that to find missing. So looking at number 1, it says find the height. So right off the bat, we know we're looking for the height of the cylinder. And it says it has a volume of 30 inches cubed and a radius of 1 inch. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to first, for number 1, I'm going to write down volume equals pi r squared times h. That's my formula. Always start with your formula. We know that. We've been talking about that since day 1. Also, you should have your work out. That would really help, so you can go over your work as I do it in case you find any mistakes. If you do find a mistake, make sure that you understand what mistake you made and figure out how you can fix that so you don't make that same mistake in the future. So now all I'm going to do is just plug in what they gave me. So I have a volume of 30 inches cubed. So underneath V, I'm going to write 30 equals, bring down pi. It says that my radius is 1 inch. So for radius squared, I'm going to write in parentheses 1 squared and then times h, because it has it in bold here. It says find the height. So we're looking for the height dimension. So right now the first thing we're going to do is 1 squared. Obviously we know 1 squared is just 1, so I'm going to bring down 30 equals pi times 1 squared, which is just 1, and then times our height, which is the value we're looking for. So pi times 1 is 3.14 times 1. I know we don't have to do that in the calculator, so we'll bring down 30 equals 3.14 times 1 just gives us 3.14. And then we have times h. And then the last thing that we need to do, obviously, is separate the left and the right side of the equal sign. Right now, 3.14 is multiplying h. To get h by itself, we're just going to divide both sides by 3.14. Show what cancels. Bring down our h, which is what's left on the right-hand side. And then in your calculator, we have 30 divided by 3.14 equals, and we get 9.554140127. Again, that's not the answer that I want. We're just going to round. The direction said to round to the nearest tenth. So that's the first number after the decimal. So in order to round to the nearest tenth, I'm going to look at the hundredths place, or the second number after the decimal. So this 5 is telling the other 5 to round up to a 6. So the correct answer would be 9.6, and then my units. In the question they gave us inches, so I'm going to have 9.6 inches as my final answer for number 1. Moving on to number 2, again I'm starting with my formula, volume equals pi r squared times height. And looking at number 2, it says find the height. Again, I'm looking for the height, it's in bold. When we have a volume of 720 pi and a radius of 6 feet. So this is interesting. They left their volume in terms of pi. Notice I boxed 720 pi. So when I replace it for volume, I'm not going to write just 720. I'm going to write 720 pi. So I have 720 pi equals pi times my radius. They gave me 6 squared. Again, we're looking for the height, so it would be times h. So the first thing we're going to do is our 6 squared. So I'm going to bring down the entire equation. 720 pi equals pi times 6 squared is 36 times our height. And then you're going to notice that on the left and the right side of the equal sign, if I separate that, I have pi on both sides. So when we have pi or of same value on both sides, the left and the right side, they are canceling each other out. If I divided both sides by pi right now, I would cancel both pi's out. So what you can do is you can just cross out pi on the left side and pi on the right side. So what we're left with is 36 times h on the right hand side. So to get h by itself, I'm going to do the inverse operation of multiply, which is divide by 36. What I do on one side, I must do on the other to keep my equation balanced. And then we are going to show what cancels on the right hand side, bring down h equals, and then in your calculators we have 720 divided by 36 equals, and this works out to a nice whole number, so we don't have to do any rounding. It's just going to be 20, and our units are feet for this problem. So again, because it's a dimension, I'm just writing the units feet. I'm not writing cubed because it is not the volume. All right, moving right along. Number 3, again, it says find the height of a cylinder, so we're looking for the height. It says with a volume of 1,215 pi, again they gave us in our answer, so the volume is in terms of pi, and this time they give us a radius of 9, and the units we're working with are millimeters. So again, for number 3, I'm going to write down my formula first. Volume of a cylinder equals pi r squared times height. And I'm going to plug in for my volume 1,215 pi equals pi times a radius they gave us of 9 squared times h. So again, I'm just plugging in everything they gave me into my formula, and then we're going to simplify it and solve for our missing dimension, the height. So the first thing we're going to do is 9 squared. So I'm going to bring down my entire equation. 1,215 pi equals pi times 9 squared. 9 times 9 is 81 times the height. And then again, I have pi on the left and the right side of my equal sign, so they're just going to cancel each other out. Just cross them out like that. And the last thing we're left with is 81 times h on the right hand side, so we're going to do the inverse of multiply, which is divide both sides by 81 to isolate our variable h. Show what cancels, bring down what's left. And then in our calculators, we're going to do 1,215 divided by 81. And again, we get a nice whole number of just 15. And for this problem, they gave us units of millimeters. And then again, a good way to check this is what we can do. If you're not sure if you have the right answer, we can plug 15 into our equation for h and see if I do, though right now we know that 9 squared is 81, so I'm going to do 3.14 times my radius squared, 81, times our height of 15. If I hit equals, we should get the volume that we started with, which they give us 3,815.1, and we had 1,215. So you're going to notice those are different right now, which is okay because they gave it to us in terms of pi. So what we can do is 1,215 times 3.14 and see if we get the same answer right here. So 1,215 times 3.14 gives us what we're looking for, 3,815.1. So just a quick way to check to make sure that you have the right answer. You can always substitute your dimension back in and make sure you get the correct volume. And then for our final 4 and 5, they switch it up on us, and instead of finding the height, we're now looking for the radius. So it says find the radius for number 4 of a cylinder with a volume of 686. Notice we do not have pi, so it's not in terms of pi, and it gives us a height of 14 millimeters. So again, I'm just going to plug it into my equation. So volume equals pi r squared times h. They give us a volume of 686 equals pi times radius squared. I don't know what that is yet, so I need to just write radius squared and bring down my height of, they give us 14 millimeters. So the first thing we're going to do is multiply pi times 14. So I'm going to bring down 686 equals, in our calculators, pi 3.14 times 14 equals, we get 43.96. I'm just going to leave it like that. So I have 43.96 times radius squared. And then to get our radius squared by itself, on the right hand side, I'm going to divide both sides by 43.96. Show what cancels, bring down radius squared on the right hand side equals, and we have 686 divided by 43.96, hit equals, and we get about 15.6. So I'm going to bring down just 15.6. And then our last step, we have radius squared. So what that means is we're asking ourselves what value times itself is going to give us 15.6. In order to do that, we're going to do the inverse of squaring the radius, which I hope, again, in your head you're thinking take the square root. That is our inverse operation of squaring a number. So I know that this cancels, and I'm left with radius equals, and then in our calculators, I'm going to hit the second key. And then so you can see I'm going to hit x squared, because that's going to give me the square root button. And then I'm going to hit 15.6, and we're rounding to the nearest tenth. So we get about 3.9. So I'm going to radius equals 3.9, and then our units are millimeters again. If you are somewhere near this answer, that is fine. If you're off by a little bit, that's okay, because we are rounding. I kept 43.96. If you just kept it as 43.9, your answer might be just a little bit off for the radius. That's fine as long as you are close. I'm good with that. And then our final one, number 5. Again, it says find the radius of a cylinder with a volume of 150. Notice I do not have pi connected to that volume, so it is not in terms of pi. And they give us a height of 10 inches is our units this time. So again, I'm just going to write my formula for number 5. Volume equals pi r squared times the height. I'm replacing my volume with 150 equals pi times radius squared times a height of 10. And then the first thing we're going to do is pi times 10. So 3.14 times 10, I'm just moving that decimal point one place to the right. So it's going to be 150 equals 31.4 times the radius squared. And then we're going to follow the last two steps that we just did to get the radius by itself. I'm going to divide both sides by 31.4. Show what cancels. Bring down radius squared equals, in my calculator, I have 150 divided by 31.4. Looks like we get about 4.8. So I'm going to bring down 4.8. And then we're going to take the square root of both, because radius squared, we know the inverse of squaring is to take the square root. Show what cancels. Bring down radius equals, and then square root. So I'm going to hit the second button again. Hit x squared, and then 4.8 equals. We get about 2.19, so I'm going to round that to 2.2. And our units they gave us in the question are just going to be inches. Alright, so please look at your work. Double check it with all of my answers. If you have any questions, if you feel that you have some that are wrong and you can't find out where you went wrong, please feel free to contact me through Remind. It's easiest if we use the Remind app because it's almost like a text message. It alerts me right away on my phone. But here are all of our answers. I'm trying to work the document so you can see them all at one time. Raise this a little bit. Alright. Looks like that's the best I can get for right now. Alright, so that's a review of yesterday's assignment. Please go through your work, check your answers. and I'm going to upload one more video, and we're going to talk about how we find volume of cones. So we're moving on. All right, awesome.